Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing good. Here we go. Time for another pep talk. And I want to take a page from a file that I started back in, let's see here, 2007. Yeah. And if you see good stuff, write it down, keep files going, and from time to time review them, and then and just make notes. And it's a growing experience and helps remind you of things that you've learned along the way. And I took this, of all things, from an article from Investors Business Daily, the top 10 secrets to success. So, hey, I want to be successful if I can. So I work my way through them, and every so often, several years, I got so many of these files, but every so often they come back up. And so this one's come back up, and since then, something I've started doing in my Bible reading, in my study time, I write to my family. And if you'll notice on my blog, I write to my grandchildren now, advice to my virtually perfect grandchildren. And I take a lot of those from my Bible reading, and it really ramps up my personal time. I'm doing it not just for myself, but for my grandchildren. I'm passing on the faith. But I also do this. I've also started doing this with my two children. I have two wonderful children. My son is a chaplain in the Army, a career man and a family man, ordained bishop in the Church of God. And so I'm very proud of him. And my daughter is a family woman. She's a mother, has a wonderful family, very involved in her church in South Carolina. And so both of my children, I'm very proud of them. And so I've started writing to them as well. And so this one, I decided I'd work through this file on the 10 secrets to success, and I'd write to my son. And so I'm going to just kind of read and talk to you a little bit here today. But the first secret to success, you ready? It is take action. All right, successful people take action. And then they say, goals are nothing without action. Don't be afraid to get started. Just do it. Okay? And so anyway, this is what I wrote. Lee, a book that has had a big impact on my life was Building the Bridge as You Walk on It. And I'll try to look it up and put the book in the title. I believe the guy's name was Quinn. I'll put it in my blog. In many ways, that describes my life, building the bridge as you walk on it. I have not had some big noble master plan for my life. Basically, I saw myself doing three things. I saw myself getting married and having a family. I saw myself being a pastor. And then later in life, I saw myself being an administrative bishop. And that's it. I haven't had all these goals and big plans in my life. I just started. Sanj and I, 1978, I didn't stress out over getting married. I just knew someday I would. I saw myself being married and being a family man. And I remember, I won't go into all the details. I think I've talked about it in another blog when I first came to Illinois, introducing myself. But I remember getting down on my knees and praying one day, and I'd been asked, what are my intentions concerning Sanja? And I said, Lord, I feel like this is the right one. And it was just such peace, and I felt his assurance, and the rest is history. We got in my 1972 Pinto. I had $100 to my name, and we headed off into life, and here we is. But I always saw myself as a pastor. Early on as a little boy, I would dream about preaching and pastoring. And then I remember later on in life, I began to see myself doing this, to be a pastor to pastors, to be a leader to leaders. And I remember my first ministers meeting here in Illinois. I remember getting up. I had seen myself do that. What I said, I had seen myself doing it many, many times before. I had saw it. Many years while I was still pastoring and enjoyed being a pastor, but I just saw it. And so I saw myself doing those three things. And that's why Those of you that have served under my leadership as a pastor or now as an administrative bishop, I've asked many of you this question. I ask it often. I ask it of myself, and here it is. This is an important diagnostic question. What do you see? What do you see? What do you see for your church? What do you see for your family? What do you see for yourself? What are you seeing? What do you see for 2025? If a man doesn't see anything, and of course I'm writing my son, but that goes for women too. If a man doesn't see anything more for his life, I can't help him. And regrettably, there are far too many who don't see anything more. In many ways, they're like the children of Israel who spent their life wandering around in circles in the wilderness with no real direction, no purpose besides just living to not die. And in reality, they were waiting to die. Good people, but just going through the motions. They no longer see anything different. They don't have direction in their life. It is what a man sees that sets the direction of his life. What he sees, he either fears it and flees from it, or he embraces it and runs toward it. But at least he's running in a direction. Once you see yourself doing more, being more, then I have another question for you. Just two questions. What do you see? And then, what is the one thing I can do now to increase my chances of achieving what I see? What is the one thing I can do right now to increase my chances of achieving what I see? That's what I mean by building the bridge as you walk on it. Just keep asking that question day after day after day. For example, when I became a pastor, then I had to figure out what that looked like. Okay, what's the one thing I can do now that I'm a pastor to be a better pastor? And I just kept growing. I kept seeing myself doing more, being more. And little by little, the bridge it stretched from Saluda to New Ellington, to Simpsonville, to Easley, and then finally to Fort Mill. I just kept growing. I didn't have a big master plan. I didn't sit down and these are the top 10 things you do to grow a church. I just kept growing me. I kept seeing more, and I kept desiring to be more. And so that's what I mean by building the bridge as you walk on it. The life lesson is this. Don't feel like you have to sit down and come up with a list of responsible life goals that other people have told you that all good people do, that all great pastors, this is what they do, all great Christians do. No, you sit down instead and ask yourself, what do I see for my life? And if you and God are okay with it, then ask yourself, what's the one thing I can do now to increase the chances that what I see can come true? Now, let me close. I got two more things. Let me close with this. First of all, don't be afraid to dream big. We call it vision. We see vision. We dream. Don't be afraid. Don't have false modesty. God put those dreams. You can't see anything if God doesn't put it in you. And God said, if you'll delight yourself in me, I'll give you the desires of your heart. And so dream big. Don't be afraid to dream big. And the second thing is, whatever you do, don't wait until you have all the resources, all the knowledge, all the help. You know, there is no Betty Crocker great life mix. Just add water. It doesn't come in a box. You just get up and you just start making one wise choice at a time. You start building the bridge as you walk on it. And before you know it, eventually, I have found that I get there. So there you go. That's my thoughts on the first thing you do, the secret to success. God bless you. Let's keep running to win. We'll see you around the bend.